What are ways that you have been classically conditioned, that is you've been Pavlov's dogged? I tend to swallow pills without water. Whenever I see a pill, even if someone else is going to swallow it, I automatically start salivating and storing it in my mouth in anticipation. As a kid, I'd always forget to do the chores that my parents assigned to me. Whenever they'd come home, I would hear the garage door opener, freak out, then run around the house and try to finish as many chores as I could in those 30 seconds, or at least look busy. Now, whenever I hear my garage door opener, I do that little "oh crap, did I do that thing yet?" even if I've already done all my chores. Flashback to mom asking you to thaw the chicken. Chuckles. I'm in danger. I heard my phone's alarm sound from high school in a movie and immediately felt like it was 5:30 AM and I had to groggily get up and suffer for the next 8 hours. It was like 7 PM on a Saturday. My mum used to whistle me home for dinner. Before mobile phones, it was a loud and epic whistle you could hear for miles. I grew up, moved out, sat in my flat. I hear that whistle. I immediately go to the nearest window. Lo and behold, my mum is outside at the pub opposite waving at me. No dinner though. I bet she had just told the table, watch this, it'll be great. I was late for my connecting flight once and I started running in the airport. Some random person yelled no running and I immediately had a mini panic attack and switched back to walking. Took me all the way back to elementary school. Lololol. They were probably a teacher that was Pavlov themselves. Yelling behind when walking behind someone unexpectedly. After years of working in a busy, loud kitchen, cooks were expected to clearly indicate if we are coming up beside behind someone. For months after I left the industry, I would find myself automatically exclaiming behind in busy grocery stores or public spaces. Thankfully I usually wasn't carrying anything hot, because then you're supposed to yell hot behind, which, for obvious reasons, would be misconstrued in most situations. This and corner are very useful things to yell. I wish more people would adopt this behavior. My mom used to play with me when I was a baby by waving her finger in front of my face saying this little finger will make you laugh. 1, 2 and 3 like this, and at that moment I'd get tickled. Well, now anytime that she waves her finger at me I can't help but laugh. This is cute. I once trained myself to feel satisfied, proud, happy when I made a clicking noise. I was struggling with depression at the time, so whenever I recognized I was feeling a positive emotion, like after I made something or took care of myself, I would click. After a while I could click randomly and feel better no matter the situation. It was dang handy, and I still randomly catch myself clicking when I feel good or when I'm really stressed. What a freaking great idea. Please put this in life pro tips if it isn't yet. I don't even browse that subreddit, but I can't wait to try this. It's like you looked at everyone hates their morning alarm and went hum. I don't want to opt into the irony of saying you made Pavlov your bee, but I can't not do it either. I didn't like haircuts as a kid, and the mall where I used to get my hair cut had an orange Julius, and so my mom would always buy me an orange Julius afterwards. Now I crave one of those after I get my hair cut. I don't know why this popped into my mind, but living in the dorm at college, there was a kinda grill cafe in the basement. I'd frequently get a grilled cheese. It was labeled by writing on the wrapper with permanent marker. 20 years later I still think grilled cheese when I smell permanent marker. As a camp counselor, my friends and I used to respond up your butt whenever we asked each other where something is, i.e., where's my sunscreen up your butt. I am now married and still find myself responding up your butt when my husband asks me where his keys are. And around the corner. Kinda similar. Whenever our guinea pigs are squealing loudly I start to hush them, without looking, as they love doing it when I'm Skyping or we're watching series. They usually quiet down after some time. I noticed this has become automatic when one time I was getting annoyed because they wouldn't shut up despite the hushing. I realized that I was trying to make the unoiled, screeching window shut up. Other time I was on a train focused on my phone and heard a loud high-pitched noise, and automatically went SSSHHH. Then looked up to see a woman with some kind of bird in a cage looking at me. So yes, squeals make me go SSSHHH. I got my dog Snoopy when I was 10 years, and ever since he was a puppy he had this love for lettuce. He would go absolutely nuts for it, and so whenever I had a sandwich or a burger I would give him some of my lettuce. Over the years it became a ritual that whenever I prepared any food that involved lettuce for myself, I would grab extra lettuce for him so I could toss it to him as I ate. He passed away 4 years ago after almost 17 years together, but I still find myself grabbing that bit of extra lettuce for him. Not how I have been, but how I conditioned my kids. When my twin boys were between 18 months and about 3 years old, every day at nap time and bedtime, I would read to them Sneetches and Other Stories by Dr. Seuss. I would read this book every time they were supposed to go to sleep, and I would never read it at any other time. Last fall I had a long drive to make for work, and I had to take the kids, now 8, with me. We had just barely started the trip. They were getting pretty squilly in the back seat, and we still had a lot of driving left to do. I decide that it is nap time. Unfortunately, it's been 5 years since they have napped on any regular basis. I try to convince the boys to sit back and relax a bit to try to snooze a bit. They want nothing to do with that idea. Fortunately, I still have the book in my memory. I start reciting, and just like 1,000 other times, as soon as I get to the start of what was I scared of, they both yawn, cuddle into their pillows and blankets, and they slept for the rest of the drive. My boss always closes the blinds in her office just before we leave for the day. Couple of years ago, around 4:30, I heard that sound, stood up, put on my coat, grabbed my purse, and went to her office door, only to find her sitting at her desk working. She'd closed the blinds because of the sun. She told me she'd never seen anyone as disappointed as I was in that moment. Whenever I hand something to someone, I say there you go. And what do you say now? You can thank my toddler for that. Oh god, I do this constantly too. I also let baby talk slip into my conversations with other adults and don't even realize it until they start laughing. Absolutely mortifying. I have a pee song. I used to have a very nervous bladder, and so I used to need a tap running in order to do my business. For when that wasn't an option, I started singing to myself, and that relaxed me just enough to ease the flow. For some reason, the song I always used to fall back on was Only You by the Platters. Now whenever I hear it I get the urge to go, so that's fun. Now this is the content I was looking for. Whenever I hear zippers I feel anxious and start packing up. One time out of curiosity I tried obnoxiously zipping and unzipping my bag in class. Every person in the class started to pack their bags up and leave. The teacher was not happy. This happens a lot in my classroom, like 3 times a week. The teachers are never happy. Stopped fighting wildland fire after 15 years a couple years back. Now, when I smell smoke in the summertime, my heart starts pounding, and my entire body is telling me that shoot's not right. It's because I don't have my hand tool, boots, hard hat and radio. I'm freaking naked without that crap. Sounds more like trauma than classical conditioning. Not quite Pavlov, but I went to a military school that had names of deceased alumni chiseled into white marble in one area of campus. The marble was embedded in the ground bricks. We were told never to walk on them because it's like walking on their grave headstone. So while visiting DC on spring break, I came to a neighborhood park near a university. I stopped dead in my tracks as I was about to step into the park area, which was made up completely of white marble. I ended up walking around the block to avoid it. Had 2 car accidents when I was a kid. Now every time I hear tires screeching in the streets I get a little stressed thinking the car is heading towards me. I was rear-ended while stopped at a red light. For months after when I stopped I got nervous and would watch the car behind me thinking they were going to hit me. If I'm a passenger in a car I fall asleep. My parents used to intentionally leave for road trips late at night so that my siblings and I would sleep a large chunk of it. So now I associate being a passenger with sleeping. It's super fun being in my late 20s and falling asleep on the drive to a site visit with work, lol. I love sleeping in cars because it's like I'm fast traveling in a game. Hearing someone else's text message notification go off. My phone can be laying on the table in front of me. I will hear the ding of my cubicle mate's phone and I still pick up my phone even though no notifications have lit up my screen. That's exactly why I set my own custom vibration pattern. because my phone is set to vibrate only all the time. I've been out of the Navy for over a decade now, but every time I'm somewhere with a PA system and there's an announcement while I'm talking, I immediately stop and listen, then resume right where I left off when it's over. Also, when I was doing residential HVAC and was in someone's attic, before exiting I'd call down ladder in case someone was down there. Growing up, my mother always made me come to the grocery store, but if I did she would buy me whatever drink I wanted at checkout. I cannot go to the grocery store now without getting incredibly thirsty. However, I do not ever buy myself a drink at checkout. It doesn't matter how many years it's been since I last went to the grocery store with my mom, I still get that craving for a drink every time. When I was in college I kept the key for my dorm room in my wallet. After leaving without it a couple of times and getting locked out, I made it a ritual to give myself an enthusiastic wallet check every time I left the room. That was over 15 years ago, and I still smack my own butt every time I close a door behind me. This is weird, but for about a year I would think about going to a bookstore every single morning when I combed my hair. I think I just thought about it once, and then a second time. Then it was every single morning. Hearing ice rattle in a drinking glass still puts me on edge high alerts. My dad was an alcoholic, but a good guy deep down, and he would walk through the house with his liquor glass, and I didn't know if he was going to be an angry, non-violent, drunk or an obnoxious, jolly drunk. I actually wrote a paper on this in college. I found that brake lights in front of you cause you to subconsciously brake as well. When asked how are you today at a grocery store, you are likely to respond subconsciously with good or fine, etc. A lot of things we don't notice we do, or do when our brains are in autopilot mode. From age 13-17, I was a paperboy. Back in the day, your paperboy would come to your house and collect his home money about once a week. Being shy and introverted and uncomfortable asking people for money, I absolutely hated collecting. My route was a series of identical small apartment buildings, so every customer's apartment layout was the same. The front door opened into their living room. Just about everyone had their TV in the living room, and just about everybody was watching something when I came by. They'd go off to find some money to give me and I'd stand in the doorway, catching 15-second snippets of whatever they were watching on TV. I did my collecting Sunday nights, because that's when people were home most often. Back then, there were only 3 major TV networks and a couple of local UHF channels, so there wasn't a lot of variety in what people were watching. It seemed like the old folks watched Lawrence Welk and everybody else watched 60 Minutes. To this day, the ticking stopwatch bumpers that start and end each story on 60 Minutes make me vaguely anxious. It's because, almost 50 years later, I still associate the sound of that stopwatch with the anxiety of knocking on doors and collecting my paper route money. I pushed my manual wheelchair for 25 years and then I got a power car. When I'm in my power car, I keep reaching down to push the tires. Yet when I'm in my manual, I keep reaching for the controller. It's simultaneously the most irritating and fascinating issue in the bloody world. Wonder if it's the same part of the brain that looks after turning on indicators. My car has the indicator on the left but I often drive vehicle where it's on the right. Often I'm fine in the either vehicle, but when I go back to mine I put the wipers on instead. Worked for a TV network here in the UK for just shy of 15 years doing the subtitles for the hearing impaired and the teleprompter for the news anchors and other presenters. Haven't worked there for nearly a year now and I still jump as if I should be doing something when I hear the sting music from the news. I used to be a train ticket inspector and for the longest time I couldn't sit on a train without feeling like I should be checking tickets and doing announcements. Sometimes I stood at the door and looked at the people getting on and off for absolutely no reason other than I was so used to doing it. Whenever somebody pauses in a conversation, whether it's a teacher during a lecture or a person during a conversation, I immediately internally freak out and assume I'm appearing disinterested or off task and they noticed. I start to get anxiety the closer it gets to 4 PM. That's when I pick up my kids from school. My son, 6, always seems to have a freaking meltdown over something as soon as he walks out the door. It's usually because I don't have a snack for him in the car, which I never do, ever. There is no eating in my car, ever. I don't understand how this became a thing, but the meltdown could also be because he doesn't want to walk to the car, doesn't want to carry his bag to the car, he wants his mom and not me, someone near him walked faster than him, he has something extra to carry, he doesn't have something extra to carry, and on and on. I Pavlov stress every day before 4 o'clock. 6 is a deceptively hard age, it gets easier. I get insanely hungry every time I smell hand sanitizer because of elementary school when they'd squirt it in your hands before lunch. Very odd. I have to remember it's been 10 years and I can eat whenever I want. 2 things. 1. I can't pass by a fire extinguisher without checking the tag to see if it's signed off as inspected for the current month. 2. As soon as I get in my car, I find the need to light a cigarette, no matter how long it's been since I last had one. Minutes, months. Firefighter paramedic here. When I'm working there is a very loud alarm that sounds whenever we have a call. We work 24-hour shifts so it is meant to be able to wake you up. Whenever I'm not at work and I hear something that starts with the same tone as our alert tone, my heart rate instantly goes up. Also, loud noises in general really freak me the heck out. Dispatcher here. We monitor the neighboring city's radios. When I'm in that city and I hear a police or fire radio doing alert tones, I get that adrenaline rush, too, and then I STFU so I can hear the address. Beethoven puts me to sleep. I was 4 when I got my own room and was scared on my own. Mom put on Beethoven and I could sleep alone. Now in college, I had a music class and during Beethoven I often thought I could use a nap after I get home. Used to work in restaurants and had a boss who was very much so a dong about how quickly we had to pre-bus tables. Now anytime I go out to eat with friends or whatnot, the second someone finishes their plate I start stacking them for the server. I can no longer look at a table of finished unstacked plates without getting a tick. When we moved houses last time we used Ajax to clean the old place, and I spent 3 days doing that, so whenever I smell Ajax now I feel anxious because I was so stressed while cleaning. I use a lively Mexican mariachi band as my alarm ringtone to get up for work. As a side effect I now get irrationally irritated when I hear traditional Mexican music, admittedly a rare occurrence in rural Canada, mostly in commercials it seems. In winter 2017 to 2018, I worked as a snow shoveler, coincidentally during the worst winter my city had experienced in like a decade. All through this past winter, anytime I saw snow on the forecast, I had this brief flash of dread as my first thought was, well crap, guess I'm getting up at 3 again. I use this as an example all the time. In college I dated a vet student who was a fantastic bedmate, but she had limited time as she had to study every evening. However, she was born with a lazy eye. She came from a well-off family so they had surgery done to correct it when she was young. However, when she got tired, the eye would wander off, and she would be unable to study so we would go to bed, not to sleep, yet. Also when she drank it would start to go to one side. Then it was game on. She was super fun and freaky when she got a couple of wild turkeys down. And 40 years later I find a lazy eye erotically attractive. Was unknowingly in a very toxic relationship once. I had a friend singing Circle of Life very terribly as my ringtone, and only had my ringtone on at home so my soak could call. Every time so called they berated me and told me all of my flaws, and every other day would break up with me and then treat me like a princess at school. I was with my friend during the few times I was allowed to visit her and she asked if my ringtone was still of her crappy voice and proceeded to reenact it, and I started crying and shaking just due to thinking so was calling. Huge wake up call, and I finally permanently dumped them a few days later. I do 3 minutes of deep breathing exercise sitting on the edge of my bed in the same position every morning that calms and relaxes me. The position is feet flat on the ground, back straight, hands on thighs with thumb and middle finger touching. The idea is that your mind associates the body position with the calm, relaxed feeling. Anytime my anxiety kicks in or I am stressed, mad, sad, irritated, I can sit in the position and almost instantly feel the sense of calm. I film dance competitions. Certain songs are overplayed. I start freaking out that I'm not behind my camera if I hear a Meghan Trainor song, as if they weren't bad enough already. Every time I read or hear Pavlov, my mouth starts watering and I taste sour. In my AP Psych class, my teacher had us put some of that lemonade mixer powder stuff on our tongue every time she said Pavlov when she was trying to teach us about him. Honestly, one of the most effective teaching methods ever. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.